I am Gauss Cooper and welcome to Gauss Coop Classics. We're going to be looking at Spy vs. Spy. It's kind of the series, but we're going to look at the original games. They're the ones that interest me the most. And we had one on the Spectrum ZX from 1984. This is the one we're looking at now. Now this is possibly my first PvP experience ever on a computer, so it's a very important game for me. But I was a very young lad, didn't really quite understand what was going on. It was only in hindsight that I looked at the game in more detail and realised that it does pull some amazing stuff really early in the industry. Put together by a guy called Mike Riedel, who went on to make some chess games. He was sort of a pioneer with voice sounds in video games. This hasn't got any groundbreaking sounds in it. It was quite a mundane soundtrack, but we also had some iconic noises and explosions associated with the entire series that actually came together in the original. And unfortunately, it's not the same talking chess game that's in the thing that McReady pours his hot bear into. So what is it? What is the game all about? Well, you heard me mention PvP earlier. Now this is like a strategy slash treasure hunt slash race. And as the name suggests, you're both spies versus each other in a contained map. Now this is the crazy thing. This was 1984 on a ZX Spectrum. You had 128K to work with on a good day. Now this thing had its own shared map and different routes, like a tiling system that allowed you to see who's been in what, but not who has been in the objects and furniture within each tile, within each room essentially. Now this is where it gets crazy. You get the chance to go up to things and interact with them, and you have all of these different traps and gadgets. One of them being a spring, there might be a bomb. The objective of the game is to search for pieces that put together a plane to get off wherever you are, but you're also laying in traps on the objects that you've been through. So this is like a trail behind you. And if both trails interact with each other, someone's going to die because you open a desk drawer that's got a spring-loaded bomb in it, or you fall into an acid bucket. There's some really mad stuff going on, and then you can counter the traps. But Coop, you're doing all this in front of the other person. They just need to look down and see what you're doing. Well, here's the other clever layer. Not only are the rooms represented in different colours, so your periphery vision knows that someone's in the green room that you may have just gone in, but the prompts to lay in the traps are not visible to the other player. They're on your pad or keyboard, so they have no idea what you're up to. It was absolute genius because you end up in a poker face situation where you know they're heading towards something that you've set up, and you can't look excited or eager because they'll clock that you've put a bomb in the bottom of that chest of drawers. It's game design genius, and the map reflects it as well, giving loads of dead ends at really cool angles for you to start playing around. Talking of playing around, it was the first ever game I ever had seen that had variables before you started. Like, you can decide your map size, different items, difficulty. It was very clever. Now moving on to the following year, because we actually saw a re-edition, the Island Caper, which came out on the C64, which is a slightly more powerful machine. So this added more items, a more detailed environment. The traps, locations and combinations of increases as well are something I didn't mention about the base game, that you had to combine sometimes traps with certain items. There would be this sweet spot with certain things that you put together that would result in huge impact on the other player's game. A slightly improved soundtrack, not a massive jump in the quality, but definitely a lot more colour and detail on the island itself. I remember seeing that volcano and just thinking, I'm in the new age of graphics, and the autonomy, the stuff that you can get up to. It's two separate games. This is split screen design perfection, really, and it's well ahead of its time. We need to drum out something in this vein again, because what they came up with back in 1984 was a game model that really does still stand strong today. The objective of this one was to get to your submarine, and it had one of the more tongue-in-cheek endings of all Spy vs. Spy games. And of course you might be wondering why not they looked like plague doctors. Well, it's a Cuban artist. It's a magazine called Mad, which was around in the early 80s. Cuban Missile Crisis, the Cold War, spies, dynamite and people getting stabbed with spiked umbrellas was totally a thing back then. The third installation that I actually played of the game was Arctic Antics, which wasn't 87, so it wasn't too much of a roll forward on technology. We still had the same system we saw on the 664. Slight nuances added, a little bit more with the environment. You had penguins in this one, and you had a massive actual missile that was going to go off from the Arctic. I mean, you couldn't get more close to the truth politically at the time. I'm trying to think of the most memorable thing that stood out on this particular installation, and it was the fact that they got rid of the sort of recognizable screen backgrounds, so that everything was white, everything had this cliff in the background, so you weren't really stuck about that peripheral recognition to what the other player was up to or where they were. That did ramp up the tension a little bit more. This one was also a lot bigger, with a lot more tasks to gather and get in order to actually put that missile together. I think you might have even had a headquarters in the form of an igloo. It was leaning towards that sort of hub system where you had to get everything back to a center point to get that missile going off. And look at this, Metal Gear Solid 2 just stole that scene completely. Of course, we had a 90s 360 version, got rid of the split screen, turned it into a third person, even added crafting. It was kind of at the birth of the internet age with online gaming, so it came with some online multiplayer to sort of push that competitor level, but massive missed opportunity. Could have been a split screen of versus, you could still have that secret button input. Wow, a ball drop there. Don't need to get me started on the great split screen swindle, links and annotations. I have been Couch Coop. I'll get on with some more Couch Coop classics pretty damn soon.